Second Cup is brought to you by Roswell Park Comprehensive Care Center.
KIE, I think. Hi, everyone. Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock on the start of your Thursday. Here we are, a little bit of a different look. Can you imagine that?
We've been all around the world and back again this week. I'm currently trying to find out who Kiefer Sutherland is. I don't know this man.
Okay, so Kiefer Sutherland, if you're of a certain age. Okay, so 9/11 happens, then this show comes out called 24 on Fox. It was one of the greatest shows on TV, and they literally have to try and stop a terror attack.
Scary.
It was a great show, but like we all kind of needed it at that point. Like we needed a hero to stop the attack.
I have like a vague memory of like a clock at the start of the show or like during the show, like red, I guess 24 hours or whatever. That the show sounds familiar now.
Okay, so why is all this happening? Because our engineer Joe Burke just came in from downstairs and his phone rang, and it was the CTU phone ring that Chloe would pick up, and
he said, CTU, Chloe. And I said, are you okay? What did you just say? I had never heard those words in succession before.
But Joe was speechless. If you know the ring, you know the ring.
Well,
Jordan, what did Jordan say? Designated Survivor, also a great show.
Never heard of that.
Have you know the ring? I'm gonna see if I can Google this because it's like
I've never seen a single thing that Kiefer Sutherland has been in. Clearly has a very successful career, and I'm very proud of him, but I do not know that man.
This is it. You don't know that?
It's familiar, but like I imagine like I'm at Shays and I hear that on like an older person's phone next to me and I'm like, turn that off.
What are you saying, Joe's old?
No. It just sounds like a ring. It just sounds like any ring.
Oh my gosh, no.
Certainly.
Monster. I've never seen that movie either. No. Monsters versus Aliens. No. Needless to say, it brought it's like a Pavlov's dog. You know, It just brings back memories. Anyway, good morning. Glad you're with us. Mark says, great actor, no doubt.
Love it.
Let's start your Thursday off with a couple of different things. First of all, I want to set the stage here. We're talking about number one, the black smoke that came out of the chimney this morning. Maybe we can show the video of what we saw just before 6 o'clock this morning. This is one vote today compared to the 4 that are expected to happen. 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. So the 130 Cardinals or so voted this morning, and no pope was elected as a result.
They needed 2/3 majority, and in that case, it would be white smoke coming out of this chimney at the Vatican. This is the Basilica here. Oh no, this is the Sistine Chapel rather. And they are locked in there. Cell phone signals are jammed. They don't want any outside influence. It's a very secret process. It is very interesting to like watch it play out and see it here. And we're expecting several more votes. We might know by tomorrow who the new pope's going to be.
So again, we vote 4 times today, and by we I mean the Cardinals, 130 of them who are in the Sistine Chapel. What I thought was interesting, I saw this last night on World News with David Muir. I didn't realize. I thought that there were. Like it was all in one. I thought that the smoke was actually from the votes that they burn. It turns out that there are 2 different ovens.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
I mean,
I thought that was kind of interesting.
I think the whole thing, like, I wonder why that started.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, I mean, just signify to the people what's going on. They could have just come out and been like, hey, no Pope today.
Right.
You know? They didn't have to, it's very drama, which I love.
Right.
But it is interesting that they choose to do that, but it's not the actual votes being. I thought it was the votes being burned.
I did too, and I was
what
really.
Does this do for like the environment? Is that okay?
I mean, I don't know. It's some sort of chemical, I guess, that's in the air. But you know me, looking into chemicals these days. And,
next report from the Vatican.
So anyway, I don't know. I mean, I just thought that was kind of cool. We'll wait and see what happens later this morning. We are expecting another vote of some sort. Will we see more black smoke, or will we see white smoke, meaning that they have in fact elected a new pope?
James says a priest in Rome said these cardinals are never in the same room. It'll take 3 to 4 days, he said, for an agreement to form. Now, you guys know I watched all the Oscar nominees, and the movie Conclave showed this process, which is so wild that this movie came out. A lot of people watched it, and now we're living that experience out. Obviously, that was like a dramatized situation. Don't know how much of it is real and how much isn't. But in the movie, There was a lot of like politics within, and
I'm sure.
a lot of geographical grouping. The Europeans were backing each other, and the Africans were backing each other, and people from the Americas were kind of on the same side. So I wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
The
there.
politicking.
I know it's secret, but I want to see.
Never.
To be a fly on the wall inside of the Sistine Chapel.
And so what do I guess one of the, I don't even know who this person is, but what they say before they kick everyone out is everyone out, and then the door slam, but they say it in Latin. And I thought that was like, it's just so powerful. Like it's 2 words, process. Everyone out.
Can you believe, I mean, what else has been going on for this long? This like ritual that we continue. Yeah. It's so interesting. 4 days for Pope Francis, Mark says.
Anita says it's a popularity contest. I don't know. It might be. A lot of elections are.
I was going to say a lot of things are.
But you never know. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, though, to kind of see that all in action.
Peter Conclave was good. I would recommend it if you're looking at it. It's probably even better now in the context of everything we're going through. It probably like brings more, and it's interesting. It takes a different turn, and there's some other interesting things at play in the movie. I won't spoil anything, but it was a solid movie. It was really good. Very great cinematography.
Love that. The other thing, speaking of cinematography, how about this one? This video that's being seen all over Facebook this morning. I want to play it for you so that you can kind of hear for yourself what happens, and
we can talk through it.
Yeah, let's listen.
My car, you dumb. It's okay. You put your hands on my kids. I have it on video. I have dash cam. You grab my kids. I have it on camera. You grab my daughter.
Okay, so this happened in Cheektowaga, where that woman who you were hearing was responding to the guy that you see in the picture after what is said to be a road rage incident, and that's what you're seeing here. The guy is on the right, she's on the left.
So this is at Union and George Urban Boulevard. So it's an incident of road rage. Who knows exactly what happened leading up to it?
Right.
You hear, both sides of the story. And so that's what you're seeing on the left here is that initial incident. So this is a video that we got from a nearby business showing that start of the altercation. You can see on the right side, someone gets out of their car, and then you can see the woman gets out of her car for a moment. And then after this, she then follows him. She follows him to a home in Cheektowaga, presumably his home. And then the video on the right is what happens. He's yelling racial slurs. Obviously, we had to bleep them out. And it's a very tense moment. And at one point, she gets out of her car with her snow brush, and she comes towards him. And, he's like, what are you going to do? It gets really tense back and forth.
So she says that he grabbed her daughter in that first video that we saw while they're stopped at the traffic light right by that McDonald's. And, because he's on the right-hand side, he got out of his car and presumably, according to this woman, Adriana Jemison, stuck his hand in through the window and grabbed her.
Right. And I think, as a parent, what she's saying happened to her child.
Right.
I mean, the emotions that brings up, yeah.
So then she followed him home to the house in Cheektowaga, and no doubt you've seen this video on Facebook.
It has been really making the rounds.
Yeah.
It is just one of those jaw-dropping videos when you hear those words.
He calls her an effing N. And, here we are in, John just dropped a link in the comments here. So if you want to see Derek Hyde's reporting, by all means, click that link.
A lot of context in there, and he kind of spells it out for you really clearly.
When you hear someone use that language in 2025 and, knowing the background and the history here in Western New York, we have this choose love motto that the Bills are putting out, but why is this okay? It's not okay, obviously, but how can we, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it ironic or?
It's I don't know. It opens your eyes.
Yeah,
it's reality.
That it actually happens still.
Yeah. I mean, we had, 514 happens. That was clearly racially motivated.
Right.
And at that time, that was shocking, right? It's like, oh my gosh, how could someone have that much hate based on race? And then we're like, okay, 5 years later, hopefully we're all better. And, obviously 2 different situations here, but we're talking about, using that kind of language. It's, oh my gosh. I mean, I can't believe that she caught that on video. I can't believe he said that.
So Anita says none of this is okay, and then says you don't follow someone to their house, go to the police station. Howard, though, says ignorance is the name for it. So, and James, instead of following an obviously dangerous person, I just bring the footage to police. So I spoke with Adriana yesterday when I was chatting with her on Facebook. I think she was a little bit taken aback, to be honest with you,
There's been a
because
huge response to this.
well, not only that, but like consider the impact it has on her because, she was involved here. What do you do in that situation if you're not thinking, somebody just grabbed your child, right? Allegedly, of course, but, one thing that you do is like you have to respond. How do you respond to that? Do you fight or flight? You mentioned it, fight back or run this morning.
Said she called police. And
Right.
She didn't feel like she was being believed or that she was given the, appropriate attention at the time. So she took matters into her own hands.
So she says it's really sad. It's shaking things up for her family. And people don't really understand everything that happened, she said to me. She said even with the video, the police just they don't think it was a hate crime. They, don't really think that this man meant to cause harm. It's hurtful, she said. But, that was earlier yesterday. And then last night we found out that they actually wound up pressing charges against him.
Yeah, I mean, he was arrested, and there's a number of charges. You can go through, again, our article to read through exactly what those are. But that was, at that point when I first saw the video, I didn't know that he had been arrested. And then we talked to police about this, and even police were saying, hey, that kind of language and this
We
situation.
can't tolerate it.
Right.
Michael says in the heat of the moment, people will reach for things to go on the offensive when they feel like they're losing an argument. Not a reasonable excuse, but that's what many people default to. So are you saying, Michael, that these are just words, or are you saying that,
When you're angry.
I don't know. I mean, like, I get it, what you're saying in terms of like you reach for words, you reach for things to say to somebody to hurt them, but like not like that. Not like that.
Linda, that video when they were in the cars, it's just from a nearby business. So it's one of those like surveillance or, cameras that they have on their business just to capture video. It wasn't someone who was taking it. It was just kind of a constant feed.
Right. Carmen says, no, we aren't created equally. I don't know what country you live in. And, here's the thing about that. And, we have this. So let me lift the curtain for you, give you a little bit of background here. So we have a really serious milestone that we're marking next Wednesday, a week from yesterday. We'll mark 3 years since the Tops mass shooting here. And we just recorded some really powerful testimony from what we saw that day and to really describe, set the scene, and understand what we went through, because I think it's really about everyone involved. The one thing that I came away with after May 14th was that I didn't know what I didn't know, right? What is the Black experience? What is the lived experience? I don't know. I'm a white gay guy, you know what I mean? Like, for me, I get it. Like, I've been called every slur in the book in terms of, but I've never been called the N-word.
Right. It's a different experience.
So, I mean, I think that we have to just understand that there are people who feel that they are not equal in this country still. And, to that point, whether you're being called, I mean, do I even say it? Do I even... When you're being called the F word or when you're being called the N word, it's like you understand that, like, okay, like people still try and hold this power over you and they think that power is almighty, but it's not. Like, it just speaks volumes of your character.
Yeah, I think that's why, I mean, it's resonating and hitting so many people, and so many people are reacting here is because of like the use of that word. And to think that this stems from like a road rage incident, there's so many questions, right? Like, how do we get here? But I do think it's important that we have that conversation,
So this is interesting from Patrick. This language is always a problem. The Black community uses this language towards one another constantly. N-word is used in music and songs. She was in the wrong to follow him home. She should have called the police at that time. His defense using the language was, "How dare you follow me home?" Sting to her reaction. See, but like, I don't think, I mean, my opinion doesn't matter here.
I think what he's talking about is like the reclaiming of the word. And I think that happens in a lot of communities when something is used against you and it is so hurtful. You sometimes try to make it more comfortable and you reclaim that word. And I think that's what a lot of people do with that word. And I don't think that it, gives anyone, free game to just use it,
right.
That kind of thing. And then Anita says it's a far stretch to compare this to the Tops shooting. Not comparing and not at all saying that these are the same things. I think it just, with the timing of it all, right? We're marking that 3-year mark next week. We're talking a lot about race. We're having these conversations behind the scenes, and we're reliving those emotions and those feelings. And, if you watched that stream, you saw that word that was written on the shooter's gun, and it's an uneasy feeling. It's a
Right, it makes you
a sickening feeling.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Anita says, "What is the reason for the arrest?" So the reason is that he was, police say he was endangering the welfare of a child. I think there was a harassment charge in there as well.
We don't know the age of the child. Someone asked if this was an adult child, and Sherry says, if he grabbed the daughter, why? Something set him off. That's what I'm saying about there's so many questions
Right.
here. We don't, and you can really only barely make out that there are even people in that video, so it's hard to tell exactly what's going on and the angle that the video is shot. I have no idea, but
What precipitated the event?
Yeah, I think you're talking about a mother who perceived that her child was in danger and went into action.
So it's so funny. I'm reading Peter's comment. I was actually around someone that referred to Ed as a derogatory word, and I had to separate myself from the person as wasn't tolerating what was said. So it's funny. Like, to me, I'll be the first one to bring it up. So, like, I hosted, for instance, a gala for a Catholic school a couple of weeks ago. And the first thing I mentioned was that how ironic it was that they asked the gay Jew to come up and host this event. So, like, to me, I'm taking the sting out of it. I'm taking almost the stigma away and taking the power back, and making not a joke about it, but, like, understanding that, like, I'm a person, you're a person.
Yeah.
But
level the playing field.
Exactly.
Almost.
Like we don't need to hold this power over somebody or like have these questions or wonder about somebody. Is he, isn't he? Like, no, big homo, also Jewish. But like happy to be here, proud to be here. And you can take me or leave me. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So my point is that we can take the sting out of it, but the sting is still there when it's
the context
used.
is really important. The
Yeah.
context is really important into how these things come up. And it's things we're going to hear more about this, right? We're going to learn more about this. He's due back in court. I think next month. So we're gonna find out more about the situation. We'll keep talking about it. Sarah says a lot of questions about what happened. Doesn't change the fact that the word is a slur and shouldn't be used or tolerated. Period. And I think that's a great way to put it. Right? That's a great way to contextualize this, because when you see it at first, it's popping up on your feed. The first thing you see, what we showed you here first. I mean, you see that video, and it's like it just takes you back.
Yeah.
Oh, good gracious.
And I just want to clarify, like, I'm not trying to compare what was said to
No.
the Top Smash shooting, because I want to make sure. My point was that we went through all of this 3 years ago where racism was a huge factor. We've had these really hard conversations as a community and shared voices from a diverse perspective. But even in this choose love climate, we're still choosing to hate. And that is what kind of bothers me a little bit.
You want to have, positive talks and good discourse about these kind of things.
Right.
As we approach that 3-year mark, you want to feel like, hey, we've grown. We don't use that language here. We're above that. Or that doesn't happen here. But this is showing that it does.
I'm just reading this one comment before I even want to address it. I mean, this person isn't wrong. I've never heard people say ER at the end of a word, and what one culture deems appropriate with an A at the end doesn't give anyone the right to go ER out of anger. Just don't even, why is it even in your lexicon? Ignorance, they say, must be bliss for so many. If you have something nasty to say to somebody, come up with something better than their religion, ethnic background, cultural affiliation, and or words that are deemed hateful. I agree. Like, why resort to something so low? I don't love that. Anyway, so that's happening in our community. You gotta consider others. And, even though you might be angry, understand that your words have power. You want to talk about the stop arm camera? Because I think this is really interesting also.
Yeah. I've been working the story for a little bit. You remember when it first went into effect. I'm sure we talked about it a lot. This is the first school year that the Buffalo Public School System, the city, and a company called Bus Patrol are all working together to try to decrease the number of cars that pass school buses. It's all an effort to keep kids safe. The fines are hefty.
Yeah.
We're talking about $250 for the first time, and then it goes up from there. So a lot of people's initial thoughts are, is this a cash grab for the city? This sounds like a lot of money for them. The city has told me, look, this is happening in Niagara Falls, Cheektowaga. This is a state initiative because they found that this is happening, cars passing buses, like 50,000 times a day in the state. And that is, just a wild number when we think about keeping our children safe. So in October, I went out to a daycare that had a sign out front of it, like, hey, these cameras are launching on October 1st. And I was like, I wonder why the sign is right out front of there. It's because cars are constantly passing the school bus that drops kids off at this daycare. And the times are not always the same. It happens, in the middle of the day. Kids get dropped off at, 8, 9. And I went out there, saw it happen for myself, both directions, cars just not stopping, and really putting kids in danger. So now that the program's been going on for almost 7 months, I decided to revisit the story and see how we're doing. So in total, 27,000 tickets.
Wow.
More than 27,000 tickets were given out in this 6-month period. The first couple of months, so from October to December, it was like 18,000 tickets.
Wow, that's a lot.
Now, from January to April, it did go down. So it's now 12,000 tickets that were given out in that period. So that's a 40% drop, which is pretty big.
These tickets, we should point out, are coming from the city, but they are automatically sent based on the video from Bus Patrol or that AI image that was generated from Bus Patrol, that third-party company. The city does expect to make money on this.
So that's the interesting part here, is that it's that AI and it's that picture. So you can get this fine and say, oh my gosh, I didn't do this. Or you can see in the video, I'm not, in the wrong here. And while it does sound like a lot of money for the city, and it is, a lot of these tickets, thousands of them are being thrown out. So I looked into the numbers, and Bus Patrol and the city kind of disagree here. So Bus Patrol telling me about 60% of the tickets are upheld. That means 40% are being thrown out. The city says that number is closer to 88% according to their data.
Being upheld or thrown out?
Being upheld.
Interesting.
So, who knows? But some are being thrown out. And who knows exactly how accurate this data is, or if every one of these cases is the same. But at the end of the day, that means that there are, a lot of them still being, and it is a lot of money for the city.
So Anita says, I watched someone go around a blinking red with a stop sign out. It infuriated me. And, if you're in the city of Buffalo, the point is you're going to get a ticket for doing that because they've those cameras on the side of the bus. But Peter's wondering, just to clarify, the 27,000 tickets are just in Erie County alone.
That's Buffalo.
Right. Literally just the city of Buffalo.
Just the city of Buffalo. And not just Buffalo Public Schools, actually on every school bus for Buffalo. So like the one that I went to is a daycare. So that's not even within the Buffalo Public School System.
Now, a lot of these kids in the Buffalo school system are also taking NFTA buses. Are they on those buses too?
This is not a part of that. They're not a part of the program because those don't even have those, stop arm cameras. A lot of people pass buses all the time. But this is specifically for those yellow school buses. When you see them, you see the amber lights, and then those red lights go on. And as soon as the red lights go on, that's when it starts filming.
So I got to be honest with you. I'm taking a defensive driving class right now because Russ wants me to take it so that we can lower our insurance rate. Not that it's high, but, in that event that it might be. What I found out is that even if you're on a divided highway or you're going one direction and the bus is going another direction, you still have to stop. It might be the same road. Obviously, you stop in both directions. But if you're on that divided highway, think like Sheridan Drive or Niagara Falls Boulevard, even if the bus stops and there's that division, that median, you still have to stop in the opposite direction.
If you're confused whether or not you should stop, you should just stop.
Right.
You should just err on the side of caution here. Anita says keeping our children safe is the first priority. Linda saying some people are in such a hurry to get somewhere, they don't want to take the time to stop, take the time, smell the roses. And that's what the daycare director that I spoke with, she's like, I get it. You're busy and you have to go to work, but these kids have to get to daycare every single day. They have to get to school. You're going to have to take that extra couple minutes or you're going to have to be late.
Joyce says out in the country, the buses pull over so we can pass. Really?
Interesting.
I guess if you're waved on, I think that might be a different story from the bus driver's perspective. But, certainly the rule is if you see those red lights blinking, you gotta stop. Dali says cameras don't lie, but when staff deletes footage, they're useless. Okay, talking about the allegations from Buffalo Police Detective Richard High. And we're still waiting to find out here. What was interesting, I spoke to Zanetta Everhart about that situation. I got a statement from her yesterday talking about, because she's the education committee chair in the Buffalo Common Council. She's basically asking people to reserve judgment until the investigation is done, because we know Buffalo Public Schools is doing its own external investigation. They've hired a third party to look into the claims from Detective High about the Buffalo School District. covering up assaults, sex assaults among students. But she's saying, okay, like they're doing their own investigation. We need to wait and see what happens there and to see what comes of that investigation. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated as that goes along.
I love what, who's saying Gina?
Oh, my mom.
Hi, Gina.
Think about your own child. And exactly, that's where you have to put your focus at this point. You're like, oh my gosh, I got this ticket. No way.
Right.
But, sometimes it takes that ticket. Sometimes it takes that moment that's like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And that's where we saw that decrease. So that's encouraging, right? You can end on that note. It is going down. They are using this program next year. And look, this daycare director is like, I feel so much more comfortable. I can get the kids to and from.
Well,
much easier.
That daycare, Maine and Amherst?
That is the problem area.
Yeah.
No matter who I asked that's involved in this program, they were like, that's our number one issue.
It's so interesting. Well, when you drive in that area, it's kind of like there's like a 3-corner kind of meetup, like a triangle, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting intersection in the way that the lights go, and there's so many people. I mean, it's 4 lanes on Main Street. So many people trying to get to and from, and that it doesn't, it's a daycare, but maybe you don't realize it's a daycare until you get close. But obviously, you see this a school bus,
right? And
people are really trying to, beat those lights and make sure they can get there, whether they're trying to get to the 198 or if they're trying to go the other direction. So either way, you just gotta be careful. And it's just, this daycare owner or director is like, it just ends up on her that she's
concerned,
do the extra work too to like double check, and she's she's gonna walk the kids there anyway, but she might have to wait a little bit for the traffic to die down.
Linda says, I believe it. People don't want to wait. I get it. Like everyone's in a hurry, right? Everyone leaves at a certain time. You expect to be someplace at a certain time, and if you're not on schedule or if you're not on pace, you gotta speed along. But gosh, the kids really are of top priority here. So when we see those school buses, we just have to stop.
Peter says he wonders if this is an issue outside of the city. So
yeah,
50,000 number a day, 50,000 cars are passing buses a day. That's from the state, so that's a statewide number. Obviously, New York State is big, so we don't know how how it differs from.
Well, the bottom line is
cities
that
and
it's
towns.
outside the area. Yes,
Yeah,
it's all across the state that this is a big problem.
This is a program also in Cheektowaga and Niagara Falls. I believe it's going to Rochester. It's something that we're probably going to see everywhere, and I'm sure that it's happening everywhere.
Somebody actually mentioned that this has been going on in Rochester for some time now. I think it was Phil who mentioned that Rochester has had a program similar, something like this for 10 years, he said.
Yep.
So, to them, this is probably worthwhile, and, Buffalo might be slow to catch on. Nonetheless, here we are in the first school year.
27,000 tickets later.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you that there's a big problem here. Yep. Also want to talk about this quickly. I want to talk about the issue with DJ Granville, who is that Erie County Chief of Narcotics, who is now on leave because of the charges that have been filed against him after he's accused of driving under the influence and crashing into a number of parked cars in Buffalo's West Side last year. Now, we're hearing from one of the victims, one of the people who he allegedly crashed into, and I want you to hear what she had to say about the delay in getting some accountability here. Listen.
They said he was uninsured. No wonder there was this delay and everything. It very much immediately felt like a cover-up. I think it is a good first step. Just feels so delayed, and I think more should come of it. You have to compensate the victims. We're still unpaid, and then you have to, like I said, change the system. You have to ensure that this isn't going to happen again.
So here's the video where we see Granville crashing. He's believed to be behind the wheel, I should say, crashing into a couple of those parked cars. This from the Buffalo News. They obtained this video first and then provided it to us. So we thank them for that. But when you hear her explain the situation where, even her insurance company had to tell her, like, okay, who this guy is.
Well, they were the ones that said something, right? And she says, in Kristen's story, and you can watch the whole thing, I encourage you to, she says, she called police or she was trying to get more information here and really hasn't heard back. And the first person to tell her that, who might have been behind the wheel here was her insurance company. So as soon as she learns this, she's just like, what? She goes out to her car, she sees this damage, and then she finds out that, all of this background and that it might be part of a cover-up. I mean, and it's been, a year now she's been dealing with this?
Also not doing themselves any favors, by hearing something like that where she says, it feels like a cover-up. So we'll keep watching that one for you. Anyway, we got to get the show on the road here. Thanks for being with us on a Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday.
Woo.
Have a great day.